Hey, how's it going, folks? Today we're joined by Conrad Thompson. You may know him as the co-host of 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff, What Happened When with Tony Schiavone, and the award-winning Something To Wrestle with Bruce Prichard. Well, now Conrad is wearing a different hat, coordinating the STARRCAST convention, which will go down All In weekend in Chicago. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you inviting me on.
So STARRCAST is less than a week away. Is the nerves starting to kick in right now, Conrad?
No, we're just ready for it to be over, if I'm honest with you. I'm a first-time promoter and now a last-time promoter. Man, the amount of detail and preparation that has to go into something like this, and juggling it all with everything else I've got going on, it's just a lot. It's all-consuming. I'll be ready for September 3rd to be here.
So, for those unaware with the STARRCAST concept, it runs Thursday, August 30th to Sunday, September 2nd. Features 38 live shows, 147 wrestlers. It all goes down at the Hyatt Regency in Chicago and will air on the Fight TV platform. Tell us how this idea became a reality and how you had it all tied in with the All In weekend, Conrad.
It all just sort of happened, man. I had the idea to do a wrestling podcast convention a couple of years ago running the NWA Legends Fan Fest. And then when that didn't work out because the hotel was committed, it just sort of became a shelved idea. I ran into Cody at the airport in January of this yeyear. We started trading some DMs, and I said, hey, man, I've got an idea. And I sort of pitched the original version of STARRCAST. And obviously, as we've gone on, it's gotten bigger and more guys and more shows and more days and now more access thanks to Fight. So we've been lucky that people have been interested and intrigued by the idea, but it is much, much bigger than I ever anticipated.
So from a logistics standpoint, this type of event must need a solid team working with you. Let us in on some of the behind-the-scenes aspects of the event, because the magnitude of this event is so big, and we do know you work full-time in the mortgage industry as well as running 3 successful podcasts. What is the scope of a project this large, Conrad, if you can give us some insight on the behind-the-scenes type stuff?
Crazy. It wouldn't have been possible without Scott Hyatt helping me land the hotel and just navigate through all of the hotel side of a big convention like this. Without him, it wouldn't happen. Without Chris McDonald, who has forfeited sleep for the last 2 months to work on videos and graphics, just an incredible all-hands-on-deck deal there. Dave Silva has done our program and a lot of other little tasks. And Dave Hancock is probably the guy everybody needs to know but doesn't know because he's been our quote-unquote social media guy. He's hit a home run there and just done a phenomenal job. But we've been really fortunate to have a lot of support from the wrestling community. A lot of people, are sort of throwing their hat in the ring for this thing in a way where we never really expected. So, yeah, it's been a group effort to say the least, and those are sort of the unsung heroes behind the scenes.
Well, that's great to hear because, a lot of these names, not a lot of people have heard, and we do know you run the 3 podcasts. You're the mortgage guy. You're planning one of the biggest wrestling conventions ever. Take us through a typical week for Conrad Thompson leading up to the STARRCAST event here, Conrad.
As soon as I wake up, I do live radio for my mortgage company, and then about an hour after when I finish all of that, about an hour in, I'll go ahead and work on STARRCAST for a couple hours. Then it's time to get dressed and go to the office, and I do the regular mortgage deal as much as I can, and of course STARRCAST keeps interrupting the day with this thing or that thing, and then as soon as I get home, it's time to either work on STARRCAST or start working on one of the podcasts. And unfortunately, I had 3 podcasts and 3 Patreon sides of the same podcast, so that's really 6, plus the network show on the WWE Network. That's 7. Plus the mortgage company, plus the convention, plus the wedding. It has been a stressful time in my life. I don't know what I was thinking. I've had fun, dreaming up all these different concepts, but now pulling together all the details to make it happen. I mean, just coordinating, 600 room nights at hotels. It's a lot.
So As far as sleep, when do you, like, what time are you going to bed at night, and what does your better half have to think about all of this? Obviously, I'm sure she stands behind you, but like with the amount of work you are doing, Conrad, what does the better half have to say?
She's glad it's going to be over too, but she wasn't without. She didn't get a free pass here. She's been booking stuff on the back end herself, so she's helped me run some of the merch and just coordinate a lot of the stuff. So, from a logistical standpoint, she's been a great help, and it's been all hands on deck. But we're both really, really excited that we're near the finish line now.
So there is talk of an All In 2 happening next year. Will a STARRCAST 2 happen?
Nah, I can't imagine. I mean, it seems like a fun idea, but I can't imagine signing up to do this again. It's too much. It's too taxing on my real life with everything else that I've got going on. Don't get me wrong. If Cody really does another one, I'm gonna listen. I love that. I mean, but realistically, it's just wow. This has become such a big thing, and I don't know that I can do a second one, and I don't know that there needs to be an All In too. If I'm honest, I love the idea of guys going out and doing a super show and sort of paving their own way. I think that's awesome, but I don't think there has to be an All In 2.
So if there wasn't an All In 2, we do know that they have WrestleMania with WrestleCon every year. If you were to do a STARRCAST, would you maybe want to piggyback that off of, say, another WWE event like the Rumble or SummerSlam, one of the major 4 pay-per-views, if you were to do that?
No, I can confirm clearly that STARRCAST is a Conrad and Cody deal, or a Cody and Conrad deal, whatever. If Cody runs another super show, then I'll listen. But I'm not piggybacking a WWE event with a wrestling podcast convention. That's not in the plans right now.
Okay. And the STARRCAST logo, we did see it all over the WWE network with the Something Else to Wrestle on the network. Was that something you did need approval for? Did they have any reaction to that? Or did you just kind of throw it up there and just hope nothing was said?
You got it. I asked forgiveness rather than permission. They said we have control of the content. We pushed the envelope with our words, and we certainly pushed the envelope with the STARRCAST logos, but nobody said boo. They understood it was part of our deal, that we got to control the content, and what was behind me was part of the content. So nobody said anything, and everything's all good there.
So you had a great first season of Something Else to Wrestle with on the network. Let us in on the backstory of how WWE approached you to do the show on the network, and for the future, if we're going to see that show continue on the WWE network.
Well, they reached out to Bruce. Obviously, they saw the groundswell that happened whenever we would cover a particular show. All of a sudden, they're monitoring the back end of the network, and they see one of these old shows just all of a sudden do huge downloads. And I'm sure they had to wonder, what's causing all this? And eventually somebody smartened them up and said, it's this podcast with Bruce Prichard. They sent that survey out towards the end of the year last year, asking people if they'd like to see podcasts on the network. And I think they sent out a lot of feelers in like December and January. And ultimately, I think it came down to, who was most topical, sort of who had the hot hand, who was there and understood the machine, who was going to be able to tell stories that would sort of leverage their existing archive of footage. And just logistically, who's the easiest to produce? With Bruce and I, we don't have guests, so you have 2 stationary cameras, one set up at my house, one set up at his. It's not a logistical nightmare of coordinating a guest every week as far as video goes. So it's nominal expense and really not that big of a hassle. So we got the opportunity to do it. It was fun, and I'd like to think we would do another one. We're still in discussions. I don't think it's been ruled out. So there's a chance you'll see us back on the network.
And in terms of some of the higher-ups in the WWE, do you know if somebody like Vince or Triple H did watch the episodes?
I mean, I don't think either one of them have sat down and watched all the episodes, but to say that they never saw it would be inaccurate. Yes, I'm sure they've seen it. I know they're both familiar with what the show is and what it's about, and I know that they've both gotten footage from some of our live shows where they could just sort of get a feel for, what our live shows are like and what the content's like and what the crowd's like and all that. So They had a good idea of what they were getting before they ever put it on the air.
And at one point, there was some sort of creative issues that pushed back a show. I guess it was pushed back a couple of days. Is there a story behind that you can kind of let us in on?
The show sucked. We wanted it to be better. They made it better. In the end, nobody told us what to say or do. And I know that a lot of people sort of jump to conclusions to say, oh, I had to go through the WWE filter. And that's true from a legal standpoint. If there were pending lawsuits, they clipped it out. If it was something where they had a settlement, like for us not to say the word federation, they fixed it. So I understand all that, but they didn't sort of smarten us up, to use a wrestling term, about any of those things. They just edited the show. And unfortunately, it was the ECW episode. I don't think they did the best job the first time around. And Bruce and I said, hey, rather than put this out, we'd rather we take another stab at it. How about this? What if that? In the end, I think the show was really, really good.
So they did give you like full reins on topics, but did they give you like a short list of things that like you couldn't talk about? Maybe like Chris Benoit or Owen Hart's death, or obviously like the CM Punk lawsuit, things like that?
No, we talked about CM Punk. We had a whole episode on CM Punk. We just waited to air it when his UFC fight was about to happen, or had just happened, rather. We wanted to not do it as the first one. Let's do it when it was really going to get the most attention. But no, I mean, listen, I'm not a dumbass. I know I can't talk about Chris Benoit, and I know I can't talk about Owen Hart's death. And how about this? Bruce doesn't want to. I think sometimes that's lost on people. For me and you, all right, I mean, I can't speak for you. I never knew them. So to me, they're just there's characters on TV. But Bruce Prichard shared cars with them. He shared planes with them. He shared hotel rooms with them. This is a guy who was, friends with these guys. So it's a totally different dynamic when, you're talking about the death of your good friend who died right in front of you, or someone who your son idolized and had a personal relationship with murdered his whole family. So, I know that those may have been very controversial shows and would have generated some buzz, but it's not what we were trying to do.
Totally understandable there. And if there is a second season, what type of topics would you want to discuss? Just give me a few here.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think the episode that needs to be done is on China. And I think people think that's a little taboo, and I don't know why it has to be. But I'd love to tell the China story. I would love to talk a little bit more about Bret Hart on the network, because that is still one of the most fascinating stories to me. And I think, we're just sort of scratching the surface. We could do a lot more Stone Cold Steve Austin. We could do some more with The Rock. And the whole Mankind story is super unique, unlike any other. And I think eventually we've got to do something on the McMahons, how Stephanie came in and went from almost like an intern to now one of the heads of the company, and just that whole progression and how she became an on-screen character, and then how the relationship with her and Bruce deteriorated. And I think that's an interesting story, because you've got so many layers of her as the schoolgirl to her as Bruce's boss. And not just the stuff that we saw on TV, but everything I just ran through sort of behind the scenes. I think it would make a very interesting story.
So if they were to, say, change it up a bit, where they would want to put some of these guests, say some of these workers, on the show with you guys, would you be down for something like that as well? Or would you want to keep it where it's just you and Bruce talking, via Skype or however you guys do it, rather than something in the studio so it doesn't look as authentic?
I don't hate the idea of doing something in a studio, because then it allows us an opportunity to work closer on the production side, just to make sure that we can really polish the show up as far as graphics and cues and sound. And I just think there's a lot of opportunities. I mean, you have all of these world-class facilities up there. Meanwhile, Bruce and I are making do with $400 cameras. It seems like there's a missed opportunity. Time is, of course, the issue, because I don't, as you said, I have a full-time job, so I can't just take off 2 weeks and go shoot. That's not an option for me. So we'd have to figure that out, but I do like the idea of shooting it all in a studio and having it professionally done. And here's the other thing about that. You would do them to where you would do a bunch in a row, so you'd have a lot in the can, which would afford you the opportunity to have the entire staff spend a lot of time in post-production finding all these clips the way we were doing it before, we're taping it on, Sunday, and it's posted on Wednesday. And in between, I know a lot of people say, oh, but you had all that time in between. Well, yeah, but they were doing pay-per-views some of those Sundays, and they were doing Raws and SmackDowns every Monday and Tuesday. So you had a nominal amount of time to dedicate to this. And what could that world-class crew do if they had 6 weeks to put one together? That would be unbelievable. So hopefully, something like that presents itself.
So did you have WWE guys like at your your place or wherever you do record, or is this something you guys recorded and then sent the file off to the WWE to do whatever they needed to do?
They came and set it up one time, and then after that, every week we would coordinate with WWE Studios. We'd have a call sheet. We'd know when to log on, and we would double check the lighting, and that we would have them in our ears. That's the reason we wore those headsets, so we could hear them. And then it's just time to go. So we would set up every day about a half hour before it was time to record. So if we had said, hey, we're going to record at 9 a.m., well, at 8:30, we're making sure that we're positioned right and the lighting's right and all that jazz.
So I recently ordered Sean Oliver's Kayfabe Commentaries book. He just released a book not too long ago. Would you ever think about writing a book with all of your journey into this whole wrestling podcast universe?
No one cares.
You'd be surprised how many people actually do care, Conrad.
Well, that's nice of you to say, but no, that's not my deal. But I mean, I read the book. I love the book. I can't plug it enough. I think what Sean Oliver and Kayfabe Commentaries have done has sort of gone under the radar recently because there's so many podcasts who have just sort of taken the conversation away from the original genesis of a podcast, which was the shoot interview. And nobody did the shoot interviews better, and still do, than Sean Oliver. The first time I saw a shoot was a Rob Feinstein shoot, and it was great for what it was. But Sean saw an opportunity and said, hey, man, I think I can level this up. And he did in a big way. And in a weird way, that's sort of what I did with podcasting. I came into a format or a genre where everybody sort of had the same format. And I said, I think we can do better. And we did. And so I'm a big fan of Kayfabe Commentaries. I've used their products and downloaded their stuff for, 5 or 6 years now. Can't recommend it enough.
And in terms of your Something to Wrestle with live events, we here in Canada are wondering when we're going to see a live show.
As soon as you get a pay-per-view. I would love to do one. I'd love to do one in Montreal and Toronto and Vancouver. I know they're huge wrestling markets, but we've tried to piggyback WWE, and we keep thinking they're going to come, and they haven't yet. But if and when they do, I would imagine we won't be too far behind them.
So the big rumor is SummerSlam next year in Toronto at the Scotiabank Arena. If that does happen, will we see Something to Wrestle with live in Toronto?
I would love to do that. Absolutely.
Sounds good. And before we let you go here, Conrad, Fight TV Network is going to be airing the StarRCast festivities. Give us a rundown of the value people are getting in order once they order this Fight TV exclusive, rather than them going to Chicago. Some people can't make it there. Give us the value of ordering it and what they get and the pricing involved there, Conrad.
Well, in order to get a seat to whatever show you wanted, you had to be a Platinum Band member, and you would get priority seating. But you could probably see almost every show with a gold bracelet, and that was $129. But now, thanks to fight.tv/StarRcast, you can see every single show, and you don't have to pick. So you mentioned at the top of this that there are dozens of shows, but the reality is they're all happening at the exact same time. You've got to pick, do I want to be in this room or do I want to be in that room? You can't possibly be in two places at once. However, you can, thanks to Fight.tv. You'll be able to switch back and forth, but you can also watch them later on demand. So you don't have to pick and choose. Watch one now, watch another later. It's just like the Monday Night Wars all over again. And it's a who's who, man. We've just announced that we've got Jim Ross there. We're going to have the roaster Bruce Prichard. We're going to have a panel on the War Games. We're going to have a Death of WCW panel, an NWO reunion, a Monday Night War debate. so many fun experiences here. There's something for everybody. You've got to see the lineup. We can't possibly run it all down. It's fight.tv/StarRcast. Fight.tv is FITE.tv. It's not a television channel, but it is an absolute free app. You can download it in the App Store, watch it on any of your devices, or you can just check it out in your web browser. It's fight.tv/StarRcast, and there's 2 R's in StarRcast.
And you're also teaming up with Wrestling Travel to give away all expenses paid. That contest ends, I believe, on the 27th. So if you do order StarRcast, or is it All In, you'll automatically be entered into that.
Yeah, if you order StarRcast on Fight, you're automatically entered in. And this is the ultimate wrestling trip. I mean, here's what we're talking about. Round trip airfare to Chicago, a hotel suite for 3 nights, an eat and greet with your favorite superstar every single day you're there, every single official meet and greet, pictures, autograph, the whole deal. Everything I've ran through so far is free. It's included if you win. You don't have to do anything. But maybe best of all, you get a platinum band, a platinum bracelet. You get to experience all these shows live and in person. You even get VIP access to the after party. What after party, you say? Well, it's after All In, because you're going to All In too, in the front row. 2 front row tickets to All In. It's the biggest, it's the best, it's the coolest package in the history of professional wrestling. And you can check it out right now at fight.tv/StarRcast. Just go ahead and get your pre-order in by the 27th, and we're going to draw Monday night during Raw live 1 winner anywhere in the world, not just here domestically. If you're in England, you can still win. You're still eligible. We're going to fly your butt to Chicago, and we're going to have a hell of a time.
That is the ultimate contest right there. And before we get you going here, Conrad, where are you going to be All In night? Will you be at this, at the StarRcast convention, or are you going to be watching All In the front row, or what are you going to do specifically?
I will definitely not be in the front row. I did have front row seats, but you just heard I'm giving them away. I'll either be in a suite at Sears Center, or I'm going to be at our viewing party, because I can't believe we were able to land this. But we've got Hurricane Helms, who is going to be our host. So if you didn't get tickets to All In, you don't have to sweat that. You can come watch it live with Hurricane for just $20 on the big screen in glorious HD. We'll have a cash bar there with some bartenders and ODB's food truck. So you'll have food, you'll have drink, you'll have a Hurricane, and man, an HD viewing of All In, the biggest independent show of the year. Not by yourself, not in your living room, with a bunch of other wrestling fans. There's going to be a lot of energy in that room, and to me, it's the second best place to watch it if you can't make it inside Sears Center.
Well, good luck, Conrad, and thank you for your time today here, and I guess we'll see you next week at StarRcast and All In. You have yourself a great day, Conrad.
Thanks, man.